son started a verse or two, then my friend Craig Stevens wrote a few lyrics. And then the other night I spent about 4 hours in the subway screaming at people this song. That's all the effort that's gone into this. And it's not complete. How we doing, Vera? Valley lateral pipeline. Toxic chemicals at the wrong time. This is where? My backyard. The whole idea of poisoning my mind. They started calling it clean natural gas, shoving water down a hole and making it last. 15 chemicals or so with tons of sand. The people in PA I know, they always take a stand. Call Governor Monroe. We gotta stop the plant. Call Governor Cuomo. We don't want no fracking plant. Call Governor Cuomo. We gotta stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. We don't want this plant. You got 2 minutes? That's all it takes. Raise your hand if you like war. No hands? Good. Raise your hand if you like Dick Cheney. Raise your hand high if you like Halliburton. Raise your hand if you like fresh vegetables. Yeah, there's the hands. Raise your hand if you like clean air and water. Nice. Raise your hand if you like rowing a canoe on a calm stream. Yeah. Call Governor Cuomo. We gotta stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. Let me take it up an octave. Governor Cuomo, take a lead. Stop the gas from coming under our feet. Do what's right. Don't be weak. Take one for the team. This is no bridge fuel. We're trapped if it goes in. Stop the plant. Everybody. Call Governor Cuomo. Stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. One time loud. And call Governor Cuomo. Stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. Peace through superior energy creation. Renewable energy equals peaceful power. We want all of the above and none of the below. Sun, wind, water are the only way to go. Call Governor Cuomo. Stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Stop the power plant. Call Governor Cuomo. Say no to the fracking plant. Thank you. Enjoy the movie. I think there's going to be lights out, everybody. Scroggins has driven over here to give us a Q&A and a talk. So please welcome Vera to the community.
If you want to sit, you can come in and relax. And I usually have to recover after that movie or any of these movies. It's painful to look at, painful to hear the stories, and I have to cry at some point. I cried at some point during the movie. It was a complete shock, when they came into my county. I'm in Susquehanna County, just south of Binghamton, New York. So right on the border of New York, and Route 81 divides us in half, and we're north of Scranton, so you might have an idea of where we are. So I was living next door to Dimmock in a town called Brooklyn. We also have a Brooklyn. And one of my friends said to me, why don't you come and see what they're doing on a couple of farms? Can you hear me okay, or is it too close? Come and see what's happening on a couple of farms. And she took me, and then she showed me a rig, this giant thing like over 100 feet tall. And I was like in shock. It's on a farm. They got horses there, they got cows there, they got barns. I said, what are they going to do with this thing? They're really going to drill? So we had no warning, and they said, yeah, they're going to drill for gas. And I was like incredulous. I moved there, at that point, that was 2008. I moved there 17 years before from Nassau County, Long Island, New York. I had been raised in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So you know what that means, right?
Yes.
Urban, stinky, industrialized, dirty town. That was in the 1950s. I'm born in 1951. So, let's see, in Elizabeth, next door to Linden. And Linden is refinery town.
Yep.
Sea Caucus, that whole mess. We called New Jersey Cancer Alley.
Yep.
Eventually, my mother dies of lung cancer in New Jersey. She never smoked. My father never smoked. She didn't go out to work, so they can't say she went to work and she had smoking there. So I used to hate the smells, like Linden, Elizabeth. So then I moved to Nassau County, and that was a big difference of improvement. Then that got very developed. So basically, I was running from development. I was running from industry, and I had 3 children, 5 cats, and I said, I want to live in the country. I want to live where it's clean. I want clean water. I want clean air. So I used to visit the country. My husband was a science teacher. So we would go in the summertime. Let's go to the country, in Pennsylvania in particular, maybe Vermont, Maine, and get fresh air and have nature all around me. This was my dream. So eventually he was able to retire. And we came to Pennsylvania, and I had that for 17 years. I'm gonna cry. But I had it for 17 years. And then I saw these rigs, and I said, oh my God, I can't believe they're going to do this. No warning, nobody knows. No other state warned us. They had other states before us, out west. Nobody said, this is what's coming to you next. And then I said, they can't possibly do this. They're going to come to their senses. Maybe in 6 months, maybe a year, they're going to say, we're nuts, we can't do this kind of thing. They're still doing it. It's now 2016. This movie that you saw is I think 2013 they were interviewing me, maybe 2012. Whatever I said there is much more now. So when I said there were 600 gas wells, now I have 1,400 gas wells. 1,400 holes in the ground. If you can imagine. I could never imagine. If anybody said that to me, I say, you're completely crazy. It's not possible. People can't be that nuts. So 1,400 holes now. And then when I said it was maybe 23 compressor stations, now we have 45. Plus 2 more were just approved. I go to the meetings. I go to the Planning Commission, county commissioners meetings, my township meetings. I went to the Planning Commission meeting in February with a friend of mine, one of them that you saw there, Craig Stevens. And I heard them say, we're going to approve 2 more. And they're going to be bigger than anything we have yet. So they started with 2-engine compressor stations, 3-engine, 6-engine, 7-engine, 8-engine, 10-engine, 12-engine. And they said, now we're going to go even higher, 14-engine. I said, my God, how dare you? How dare you even say this with a straight face? You can say it without being upset. You can say it without screaming. I want to scream from the highest mountain. How dare you say this to us? And you, your group, half a dozen of you, you want to do it and say it again. You cannot say no. You cannot resist. And I gave my speech. Craig gave his speech. We were upset. And they just approved it. They said, we have to. If they fulfill all the requirements, we have to. I said, so? You have to? What do you mean you have to? What kind of Americans are you? You can't say no? I am an immigrant. My parents are immigrants. We came here from Germany after the war, from Nazi Germany. We were refugees from the Nazis, what they did to Europe. We happened to be Christian, but we were all destroyed, some more than others. We lost everything, and we came to this country. 7 years we had to wait in camps to immigrate, my whole family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, godparents. We had to wait. And then when we came here, I didn't come to this country. My parents didn't come to this country. My grandparents didn't come here so that we have to again be under the spell of another fascist corporate takeover. So I said, no. I can say no. I will not let this happen. I will do everything I can. We, the people, we are Americans. We became Americans. And we believe in our rights, our civil rights. That we have the right to clean air in the Pennsylvania Constitution. Right to clean air, clean water. And that we have this right. And all these people in Pennsylvania are so passive in my community, in my county. Only a handful of us are yelling and saying, this cannot be. You cannot do this to the air, the water, the land. They're putting wells on farms where the food is being made, where the cows are milking, where the meat is being made, where the produce is grown. Do you know what that means? They're putting compressor stations right next to that. There's no setbacks for the compressor stations. That means they could be as close as they want to be. We now have a 500-foot setback to homes. Before it was 300 feet. So we have that pits. They had pits in the beginning for 3 years or so. Waste pits right next to the homes. And they thought that was okay. Nobody thinks that that's bizarre. That's so bizarre to me. What do you think is in there? Do you line it with plastic? Don't you think there might be a hole eventually? They line it with plastic, big deal. So now, with all of that coming in the air, in the water, so we've had dozens of families, they say my water changes. They start to drill, the color could change, it could fizz, it could smell, it could taste funny. I've tasted metal. I've seen it in all different colors. I've seen it milky white to black. And still they continue. And all the legislators, the governors, they coddle them, they support them, they let them do whatever they want. We've been begging the governors, 3 of them, please come and see. Please come and see us. See what we're going through. I give tours, so what I started doing, so that some people could have ideas what you could do, once I saw the shock, after the shock wore off a little bit, I said, I have to document this. I was into photography, into videography, into writing, and I said, I have to document this. Because I have trouble believing it, I have to show people. So I started doing that. I have over 1,000 videos at this point on my YouTube channel, showing all kinds of sites, all kinds of meetings, all kinds of activities, all parts of the process, people who are harmed. And then some people said to me, since you know, I had to learn from ground zero what the hell this is. So since you know some of these things and where people are, can you give us a tour? So I started giving tours in 2009. And I've been giving tours since then. And it's all word of mouth. People call, and I've given like hundreds of tours. People all over the world. Besides New York, especially New Yorkers. Thank God for New Yorkers. You've done what Pennsylvania could not do for whatever reason. So I've given these tours, legislators, documentarians, farmers, citizens, and shown them what the gas industry doesn't show. So I went to the gas industry, I've taken their tours, you can go also. And they show everything, that they do everything nice, they do everything well, they cover all the bases, nothing to worry about, lady. We've covered the bases, we follow the regs. Meanwhile, in my county alone, over 1,000 DEP violations since 2008. Over 1,000. And they're still allowed to operate. We have a 9 square mile area in Dimmock where since 2010 we have a consent order. Because of the contamination of dozens of wells, water wells, the Cabot, the industry, that particular one, Cabot, is not allowed to drill or frack in that area. Still, it's a ban. That's the only ban in all of Pennsylvania. Unless the methane goes down to 7 milligrams per liter in the water. So they test often. Cabot tests some places every week, more than once a week. The highest I've seen in the test results, 80-some milligrams per liter. They want it down to 7. Hasn't gone down yet. Oh, I wonder why. Have a big surprise. It hasn't gone down. It's 2016. So they can't go in. So Cabot is the biggest violator in the whole state of Pennsylvania. We have 7 gas companies just in our county. They're all drilling. And I was showing places, doing tours for 5 years, and then eventually they took me to court. I have an injunction on me. I've been in court 7 times. I've had, civil action against me and felony action against me. So I have civil counts and felony counts. So they went to the judge. We have a county judge, 1 for the whole county. He's leased, he has property, he has gas wells. He's my judge.
He should recuse himself.
And you would say, oh yeah, he should recuse himself, but he didn't.
Of course not, they never do.
So they don't. So whatever you think they should do, what I found out when I finally got dragged into the legal system, it's nothing like the storybook they tell you. We get a storybook, a nice little fairy tale, and they give you a story in school, you know, social studies, or in college, or you might read something. Whatever we experience when we go in there, you never read about. It's all unknown, it's kept secret. And then when you go in there, you say, wow, he should have recused himself, yeah. Why is he on the bench? Why is he deciding my fate? I went in for the first hearing, I had 1 day's notice. They say, we want you in court, Cabot is suing you for supposedly trespassing. I've been going up their driveways with people to meet the managers for 5 years. They all talk to us, I showed people. Like you show a business, they give you answer questions. They called it trespassing. They never gave me a cease and desist, no nothing. I went in there, I had no lawyer. I went in with no attorney, because how am I going to get an attorney? I wasn't able to get one in 24 hours. And Cabot comes in with 4 attorneys. And they had 13 witnesses, all Cabot employees. That shows you what kind of a legal system we have. What I went through, then I was saying to myself, my God, what do other people go through? What do all the other poor people that we have the most prisoners in all of the world? We have the biggest population. What do they go through? What have they suffered when I see the shenanigans and the fake legal system that we have? So I said to the judge, I said, can I have a continuance? I need to find an attorney. He said, no. I said, why not, Judge? Why not? He goes, these people came a long way. Cabot and his attorneys, he was worried about them. They came from Pittsburgh. And we're all the way in eastern Pennsylvania, and they're in the west, so that's over 5 hours. And he said, you could be responsible for their legal expenses if we don't continue this, if we have to delay this. And I asked him 3 times during the 4.5-hour hearing. It's all, of course, transcripts are available. And I asked him 3 more times, I said, you sure, Judge, why can't you let me have a lawyer? So this is how he answered each time, you can't, because you could be responsible. And I said, well, I don't have much money. I don't want to pay thousands of dollars to these people. I guess I have to go through this. I guess I have to endure whatever. So that's how it started. So can you imagine what kind of legal system we have in our state, in my county? They say Pennsylvania, top 4 states that are the most corrupted. Thank you for coming. Pennsylvania is the top 4 corrupted states in the United States. I don't know where New York is. Now we're finding out more about New York. What number are you? Do you know?
We're number 1.
That could be. So now I'm under a permanent injunction for the rest of my life, or as long as Cabot is alive. So I have to walk and be careful how I walk around 100 driveways in my county. So when I'm walking on the roads, public roads, I have to make sure I can't stop within 25 feet of their driveways, otherwise in contempt. And if I park my car, I got to make sure I take my car and make sure it's 100 feet from the driveway on the public road. So I, as an American citizen, am restricted where I can walk and park on public roads. And eventually I did get attorneys. They came forward, pro bono, and they told me, we're civil rights experts, they told me. And you know who they are? ACLU, Public Citizen, Washington, D.C. And then, let's see, civil rights attorney from Pennsylvania. 3 of them I had, pro bono, which means free. And they decided amongst themselves, I said, I want to go to trial. I want to prove that I didn't do anything wrong. I never blocked anything. I never broke anything. I never hurt anybody. And I just showed people what was happening, and I had my camera. My camera was always usually with me to document. And they eventually decided with Cabot to give me a permanent injunction. And this is the one I have now. I have to watch where I walk and all that. And I said to them, you think this is not somehow violating my civil rights? And you guys are expert civil rights guys? Really? So this shows you, I don't know what civil rights maybe is. Maybe I'm deluded. I still think my civil rights are abused. I'm sorry. Even though the experts said this is acceptable. I don't consider it acceptable. I consider it an outrage and obscene. So this is the life that we have to go through once they take over. They have taken over. It's a corporate takeover of our government on the federal level, on the state level, on the local level. So I continue to speak, I continue to say whatever I need to say, I continue to post, I continue to give tours, and I try and follow my injunction as best as I can. I've been brought back to court twice for contempt because of false testimony of gas workers who actually lie under oath. And they say, oh yeah, we saw her there. She did cross the line. She did step on the driveway, which I didn't. And the judge says, okay, I believe you. I believe the gas worker. I had witnesses. No, the gas worker is more credible than my witnesses who were with me. So this now in appeal in Superior Court in Pennsylvania. I have another attorney, pro bono, helping me with that. So we're waiting now for the final decision whether my county's decision, my county judge made proper decisions. So we'll see in a few weeks, few months, who knows. Maybe there'll be some justice, there might. So I want to say that whatever you can do as individuals, you can do amazing things. We already stopped, with the help of New Yorkers, New Englanders, Pennsylvania people, New Jersey people, stopped already 2 pipelines. Constitution Pipeline, NED Pipeline. So it can be done. Of course, New York has some kind of a ban on fracking, and now there's more people fighting to stop the power plants. And we have people here in the audience who are trying to stop and doing their best for the CPV power plant. We're going to be protesting tomorrow. I hope to be there also, 11 o'clock, I understand, for the protest. And
the impact here is the inducing of the production of hydrofrack natural gas in localities in Pennsylvania and others, and the injurious impacts of that, which are required to run the power plant that's being built about 15 miles from here. In 2009 and 2010, the proponents of this power plant did their environmental review. And you will see in hundreds of pages of environmental review, not one reference to the hydrofracking issue. And of course, in New York in 2009, we didn't quote-unquote ban hydrofracking. But by 2014 we had, and by 2014 this project had not even begun. In early 2015, the proponents of this project went back to the planning board in Wawayanda, and they came with an amended site plan. And many in this group and others who are not here went to the various boards, particularly the planning board, and said, do a supplemental environmental impact statement and require them to study the impact, the full impact of this project, including the inducing, as Vera explained, of that productive process. What are its effects where it's happening? And you know what CPV said? That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. And you know what our court in Orange County said so far? That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. They don't have to study that. Which is why we're in the second tier appellate court right now in Brooklyn. Because we think they do have to study that. And they do have to do a supplemental environmental impact statement. And they do have to come clean on all of the impacts of what they're doing. You know, one thing as I watched the movie, and it is an emotional movie, one thing as I watched the movie that appealed to me is the Hegelian principle that we have to be able to generalize what we do. When we do something like what we saw on this scene, and this is part of what Secret gets to, it seems to me, when we generalize what we watch there, it leads to profound destruction. When we allow it one place, what limits it somewhere else? Nothing. If we can do it one place, we can do it everywhere. If New York State takes the position that hydrofracking is dangerous for our citizens' health and environmentally destructive, how can we coherently, in the same epoch, the same point in time, say that we can create a massive infrastructure in our state that depends on hydrofracked natural gas? It's absolutely incoherent. It's indefensible. And we do have a statutory structure which reaches this. We just don't as often use it. And in that sense, the equation to the civil rights movements are very apt. Because often we don't use those laws either to extirpate massive violations, whether it be sexual harassment or other forms of discrimination which pervade our society still. We have the laws on the books, we don't use them. It's a very analogous situation. So that's one of the main points we're making, and I've been hoping for the last year since I met with Pramila and Randy Hurst at Randy's house last May, I believe it was, or April, that we would be able to project this argument so that the people in our county and the leaders in our county started to articulate the argument that it's incoherent, Governor Cuomo, to be presiding over this massive expansion of a hydrofracking dependent infrastructure when you have declared that this technology is unsafe, unhealthy, environmentally destructive. That does not seem to me to be such a difficult syllogism to understand. It seems, frankly, quite simple. So, I agree with another point made in the movie, and it's something that we're fighting against in our cases as well. There is a tremendous degree of corporate control and corporate power, and there are many people who are alienated and who believe that you can't fight City Hall and that these are done deals. I think they should think about Selma, Alabama. They should think about the kitchens where the civil rights movement began, with people who had much less privilege than most of us have, much less economic capacity to make change, and who made profound change. Because they realized that what they did in their basement could have a ripple effect across the society. That's what we have to recognize. Wherever we are is the place we can make a stand. We can't be everywhere. We can only be one place. And that's the place that we have to stand up. And the way we on to 6, which is the other legal case that was referenced by Tom, is an important example of that. Because as you saw in the movie, up at Seneca and around New York State, courageous people stood in front of trucks and said, we are willing to put our lives on the line because this is important enough. And that's the question each person has to ask. Is it important enough? And if this is not important enough, what is? And again, it's not mere speculation that leads to the conclusion that the environmental impacts and the health impacts from these technologies are so profound, so ill-known in some way, so ill-developed, because as we know, these kinds of technologies have a gestation period which can last 15, 20, 30 years before we see the full rollout of the environmental and health effects. They don't happen overnight. But we have enough indication, clear indication, that the injurious nature of them is profound. So the way we on to 6 proceeding marches on, and in 1 or 2 other cases in the country where similar civil disobedience was attempted, people used what's called a necessity defense. And I'll prevail to you tonight to explain briefly that defense, because I think you should know it in advance, because you're going to be reading about it in our county in the next few months. These people acted because they had no choice but to act to save the planet. And that sounds very grandiose. What do you mean? But it goes back to that Hegelian principle, that you must be able to generalize. If they don't act here, and the next person in the next community doesn't act, and the next person in the next community doesn't act, who acts and why? So each of us must act, and for each of us, what informs that action is the whole, is an appreciation for the impact of what's happening here on the whole. And that's precisely, in my view, why these people acted. Because they understood, as James Cromwell said in New York City the other day, the tremendous consequences of not acting and allowing this kind of power plant to be built and it be a precedent for the next one and the next one and the next one. And as Pramila said the other day, the huge amounts of toxics that this kind of plant releases into the environment, our knowing full well that it's within a mile of residences, of impoverished people, by the way, new residences. And full well, the Harvard study just came out about a year ago explaining the link between childhood autism and the particulate matter that comes from these plants. We know that now. It's not a matter of speculation. So if we don't act and we allow it, we morally bless it. We have no choice. So I agree the legal system is very broken. I'm not a great defender of the legal system in that sense, but we have to utilize it to dramatize these points. We know that the media watches local cases like this, and we have to use that to make the point the broader community, which unfortunately, too many behave like sheep and don't watch and don't study and don't focus and are too interested in many other, what I would say, mundane things. So that's where we are tonight. We've been here before in other movements in our county. Some of you have been involved in those movements. We couldn't keep Valley View open. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do that. The fact is there aren't that many involved people in our county. That's the truth. And if we involve ourselves and we make our points and we have persistence and dedication, we can move mountains. And we have an opportune time right now because people understand that this project succeeded because of profound corruption. Why did the folks from CPV have to basically bribe the second in command of New York State by giving him his wife a job if the merits of the project were in their favor? Why didn't they study the environmental effects of this project if studying them would have led to the same conclusion? They avoided the environmental studies. They bribed people in high places because the merits of this project did not deserve consideration and approval. That's the truth. We have to demand that our county officials speak up. We have a very lame county executive who's not speaking up. We have an industrial development agency in our county that has subsidized this project. Most everyone in the county does not know that. It's gone on while we have been sleeping. So we have a great deal of work to do. It's legal work, it's political work, it's public education work. It's not unlike the work we've had to do on many issues. What's different is that the stakes here may be higher and more profound. As the movie explains, we're not only advocating for ourselves, we're plainly advocating for future generations. And that should be inspiration enough to move us. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure both our speakers would love to get questions if anybody wants to come meet and talk to them. And thank you everybody for showing up. It's great to see so many people. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the CPV power plant, we're trying to get hundreds of people.
The press conference will be at 11:30 or 11:45.
They'll be at
11:45.
11:45.
Dennis Kucinich is coming.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Kucinich is coming. Very good, very good.
Do they know the address? Everybody knows the address?
The address is
3300
Route 6. You can look on Facebook, friend Tom Denny on Facebook, or anybody else who's here, and you'll be able to find it. It's near the Acura dealer in Slate Hill.
If anybody has, many of us can give you very clear directions if you would like to come.
You can't miss us if you get on
It's Route 6 from Dolson Avenue towards Menacing Schools. You'll see us Well, you'll see the power plant, you can't miss that being built. And it's 11 o'clock every Saturday. It's only 11 to